Join me in figuring out what we're gonna have for dinner tonight for our plant-based family of 7. Spoiler alert, of course, it's gonna turn out delicious. Let's get in the kitchen and let's go. Hey everybody, it is in the middle of the week. It is Wednesday, it's a weeknight, and it's time for dinner. It's about 5:45 and it's dinner time, and honestly I have nothing planned, which is why I really want to be more organized, and I probably should go into planning and just start planning some meals every single week, because there are times when this happens, like I just don't know what we're gonna make for dinner. I do know we have some chickpeas that I think I'm gonna make dinner with. We just made this like yesterday, and so it's been sitting in the fridge. I am leaning towards something like a chickpea stew or soup, something that can, maybe we'll make a quick bread to sop all the juices out of. Yeah, we'll see what we make. So join me in the kitchen today, sort of real time, figuring out what we're gonna have for dinner tonight. And I know it's gonna have to be quick, it's gonna have to be easy. So join me in the kitchen, let's go. First things first, we're gonna see what we have available in our fridge. Now I just went grocery shopping, so I do have plenty of vegetables to make something out of, but we also have quite a few like leftovers, maybe leftover beans and things like that. That's why I had that chickpeas left over. So I'm gonna gather my thoughts, see what we have in the fridge, kind of just put something together really quick. We had a ton of carrots. I overbought carrots, so I definitely knew I needed to use that up. We had some spinach, but I was like, meh, I'm gonna probably use that for some pesto next time. So let's take a look at what we ended up with. Let's just go over all the ingredients that I got out of my pantry. I got some chickpeas, just leftover picked chickpeas here. We're gonna do some carrots, onions, garlic, some Dijon mustard for some tang. I'm going to use some yeast for some bread making. Some leftover like kind of older mushrooms that I haven't yet to use, so I'm just going to use this up. And some crushed tomatoes. Now, I am going to start off with the bread, because the bread is going to need a little bit of time to kind of proof. I don't want it to like actually proof and make sort of a bread. So I'm going to start off with that really quick. Let me set all the stuff aside. Whew, I almost lost my chickpeas. Be all right. Mercy's gonna come help, so let's just make a really quick. Ooh, that was satisfying. Did you hear that pop? Okay. So, flour in. Let's start off with some flour for our bread. We have some organic, unbleached, all-purpose flour here, and of course, we are not gonna measure this.
It's over here.
Really? Who did this? I don't know about you guys, but if you have kids, you always find things that don't belong in containers or whatever the case may be. In this case, we found a spoon in our bag of flour. Now, once we dumped the flour into our bowl, we are going to add some active dry yeast. Now, you can use any yeast you want. You can use like the fast-acting yeast, but we just use the active dry yeast just because we have. I wanted to salt this very well, so make sure that you salt this very well, because it is going to be a savory type of dough. I didn't really measure this just because I kind of know what to go off of, but really you just want about, depending on how many people you're feeding, you want about a cup and a half of flour each person. You want about a teaspoon and a half or so of dry yeast, and just enough water to make it a dough. The water ratios, you can definitely just add a little bit at a time. I would suggest just going more water, because you can always add flour later to kind of fix it. But if it's too dry, it's really going to be more difficult to incorporate water if needed. I definitely learned that from experience, and I definitely don't like the feeling of adding, of having to add water and then just mixing it. It just really, it gets messy. While Mercy is helping me with the dough, we are going to start with our chickpea soup or stew or whatever that we're making today out of chickpeas. So in our pot here, I am going to start off with some coconut oil, and I'm going to start with dissecting, or kind of just pulling some of the petals of our mushrooms off to saute. Now, if you've never used mushrooms or really gourmet mushrooms before, I highly suggest that you try. Go to your local farmer's market or find a local mushroom grower and try some of their mushrooms. The blues, the oysters are always great if you're just starting off with gourmet mushroom. My personal favorite is the pink oyster mushroom. We do grow all of our mushrooms ourselves at home. We're definitely working really hard to get our grow fine-tuned so we can dehydrate them and offer them to you guys as well. So today I just have some pinks and some blue oyster mushroom. If you've ever cooked with mushrooms before, you know how umami it gets, or whatever that you cook it in, the dish gets that delicious umami flavor. Now, in terms of the difference between the blues and the pinks, first of all, of course, it looks different, but taste-wise, the blues really have more of a subtle flavor and it's more meaty, whilst the pink is more pungent. I think it's more, Trey likes to say that it's more fishy. I just like the stronger taste of it, and it's also nice and meaty, and actually it works great crisping up in the oven. Just checking up on Mercy really quick. Now I see that the dough is a little bit wet, so of course we're gonna add some flour. I wanted this dough to be higher hydration because I want bigger bubbles. I don't want it to be too doughy. And when we pan fry this for a quicker cook, it gets nice and crispy, and it's just delicious this way. It's gonna be more like a pizza dough or kind of a naan, so in between a naan and a pizza. I am a big fan of making yeast doughs. I love to play with the dough. I love how it reacts to the yeast. I love how it bubbles up. I love everything about it, really. And the fact that you can make it into a loaf of bread when you bake it, or you can just pan fry it, it's so versatile. Or even make a pizza. We're gonna cover up our dough. We're gonna put it into our oven in a warm setting and just let that sit and proof for about 10-15 minutes. We're not gonna put it in for too long.
Whew. It got a little bit smoky. Okay, so we have the bread already. We're gonna put this away, Mercy. Here, put that away, put that away. We are going to do some onions and garlic in our mushrooms. So I am chopping up some onions, going in the mushrooms. Mushrooms, when you're cooking with gourmet mushrooms, you really, really want to make sure that it's cooked really well. So that's why we started with the mushrooms first. I've got some carrots here.
Carrots are hard to cook.
Oh yeah, actually carrots are hard to cook. I'm gonna try to chop the carrots as small as possible.
So they can cook faster?
Yep. You got it.
I really, really love cooking with carrots because one, it is nice and cheap, and two, it gives this delicious sweet flavor to anything that you're making. It does take a little bit of time to cook, so if you do have some carrots or if you're cooking with carrots, I would suggest putting that in first always. And of course, I definitely want to make sure that we are chopping it as small as possible because I don't want it to take forever to cook as well. We're going to stir up these vegetables, give them about 5 minutes or so for them to meld with each other, get some cocktails with each other, make some friends, and then we're going to add our chickpeas. We want to season this very, very well, so I have some salt going in. We're going to season it by layers just so that we know we have enough salt in here. And chickpeas, if you've ever cooked with chickpeas before, you definitely need lots of salt just because the chickpeas do require the salt to season it up. To make the sauce, we are going to add a can of crushed tomatoes. I just have a large can of crushed tomatoes. If you have diced tomatoes, if there are smaller cans, I would suggest using 2, or it just depends on how many you're cooking for. If you have some vegetable stock, this is a good time to use. I am just going to add a little bit of water here, about a can's worth of water in here as well.
So I am going to spice this up a little bit with like Moroccan flavors. I think it's going to be really nice. I'm going to add some cinnamon. Oop, that was like a lot. Let's do maybe some cumin. Yeah. My work is over here, Marcy.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Stir our spices really well. You could definitely toast these vegetables with the spices, but as soon as the seasonings hit, it smells absolutely delicious. We're gonna bring this up to a boil and then lower it to a simmer, and we're just gonna let that kind of sit and do its thing. We'll cover it and we will move on to the next thing, which is our bread. Now, mind you, this only proved for about, I would say, 10-15 minutes in our warm setting. And look at how bubbly it is. It's beautiful.
Alrighty, a quick time check-in. It is 6:15. We've got our dough ready. We're gonna just pan fry this and make it sort of like a,
I know what
sort of like a naan type thing.
Flat.
I think it's gonna be delicious.
I think anytime we are making bread or dough or just working with dough in general, Mercy and really we both get really excited touching the dough and playing with the dough. Let us add some flour onto our board here. We want to make sure that it is very nicely floured because this dough is going to be a little bit tacky and a little bit sticky, but that is okay. It's going to make a delicious crispy dough.
Very sticky. Let's see. Okay, that should be good. Not too much. Okay, I'll just spread it out like a pizza. And then I'm gonna start the pan for you, okay? We don't want it too thin, Mercy. We want it kind of thick.
For those of you who don't have an oven, this is a great time to make this dough because you can just pan fry this. We're going to add about a teaspoon or so of coconut oil on our cast iron skillet, or you could just use like a pastry brush and just paint your oil on. We are going to preheat that pan to about medium heat or so, and then we're going to add our dough onto it. For the bread, we're only going to cook each side for about 1 to 2 minutes, just until it is nice and golden brown on the back. We're going to flip it. We are going to cook it for about 1 more minute on the other side. Now, the first piece is always a tester, just like a pancake. So just get your ugly tester out of the way and then move on to the next bread. You'll notice that the dough is going to rise a little bit as you cook it because of the yeast. It's kind of like basically like bread, but just pan fried form. And that's exactly what you want, that fluffy, delicious, soft bread.
You mean the flour tortillas? Pretty good. It's gonna be good for the sauce, huh? I am gonna put the coconut milk into our stew, and then we're gonna continue to make the bread, and by that time, once the bread is done, I think we're good to go.
Today we're going to be using some full-fat coconut milk here. I really just love the creaminess of a full-fat coconut milk, and if you're going to go for it, you may as well just go full fat. But of course, if you're healing or if your body just can't handle a full fat, of course you can use like a light coconut milk. You know what would be good in this stew is some greens. So any like collard greens, some Swiss chard, something like that. Something hearty that will just withstand. I did have that spinach in the fridge, but I knew that that's going to kind of just dissipate or disappear in my stew. We're going to season it up again as Isaiah shows me his artwork. It's so cute. He came and gave me his artwork. It says Isaiah and Mama and Baba I love. Very cute. I'm going to continue to work on the next set of bread. So just like the first one, we're going to be adding plenty of flour down. We're going to just spread it out with our fingertips and make it nice and thin. And then Mercy is going to be in charge of cooking them all. I really developed the love of working with dough. Honestly, I've always loved working with dough, even when I was a kid. I probably should have gone into school for like being a pastry chef or something, or learn how to make bread, because I really just love bread. Let us know in the comments if you love to make bread or working with dough with your hands, and what your favorite thing to make is whenever you have some time to play with some dough. I'm trying to prepare Mercy by just making as many dough pieces as I can to fit my board, just so she can cook them whenever she is ready for the next one. For those of you who have been watching a while, you know that Mercy is very great in the kitchen and possibly going to be a chef one day. I'm always grateful whenever she is here helping out, and she is very competent. I wanted to show you a really close-up of how thick and how large I am making these dough pieces. You can see that they're pretty thick. I like it this way just because it's nice and bready when you dip it into a sauce or a stew, whatever that you're making it with. You can definitely roll it out with like a rolling pin if you want it a little bit thinner. And hey, it's gonna cook faster if it is thinner anyway. But honestly, this bread, it didn't take too long for us to cook. Like I said, it takes about a minute or two maybe on each side. It did take us a little bit longer just because we do have a larger family, and of course we're making more bread than a normal family of an average size. So it all just depends on you and your family. The stew has been stewing for about, I would say, 20-30 minutes or so. It's gotten nice and thick due to the coconut milk. You could see the chickpeas and everything. Wouldn't you want to dig into this? I'm gonna ladle myself a nice big bowl so that I could show you what it looks like. What a nice, easy weeknight dinner for us, paired with this lovely, fresh, fluffy bread. It's nice and cozy. It looks welcoming and warming. I can't wait to dig in. We've got about 2 more pieces of dough to work on, so I'm gonna wait for Mercy. We're gonna continue to make them. This one, it looked like it ripped a little bit. That's okay. I think I didn't flour the board enough. So she just rolled it up, and we're gonna move on to the next.
Dinner is done. It is about 6:49 dinner time. We're gonna try this out. So Mercy, you want to taste test? I'm just gonna taste the sauce. Oh, that's good, you guys. That's really good. This bread is gonna be good. It's good, isn't it?
This better be buttered chicken. The best soup on the planet. Excuse me, Mercy. There's no more balls. This is impossible.
If you have the ingredients, you definitely make this. The mushrooms are good. The mushrooms give that umami taste. It's so good. Mercy said it's so good. We hope that you give this a try if you have the ingredients. It was so simple. Alrighty guys, happy hump day. If you are new, we would love for you to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you for bye everybody. Thank you for joining us for dinner. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning in. We really hope that you have a great rest of your week. We are so grateful for all of you guys who tune in every single week, and we just want to say a very special thank you to all of those who are giving well wishes for Trey recovering. He is doing great. Alrighty guys, talk to you soon.